Imagine a city split in two by a wall. Berlin. For nearly 30 years, East and West Berlin were divided by concrete and barbed wire. The wall was more than a barrier. It was a symbol of a world divided. On one side, freedom. On the other, control. Families separated. Lives changed overnight. Streets became borders. Hope became dangerous. In the autumn of 1989, tension simmered in the East. People gathered, chanting, "We are the people." They demanded change, risking everything for freedom. No one knew what would happen next. In the West, people watched, hoping for loved ones across the wall. The wall was a scar, a daily reminder of the Cold War. Berlin was the front line, a western island in communist East Germany. The wall wasn't to keep enemies out, but to keep its own people in. It stood as a monument to fear, but also as a stage for change. The city lived in the shadow of global conflict, the US and the Soviet Union. But beneath the surface, hope endured. The wall was a prison, but also a challenge. As the world watched, ordinary people prepared to become heroes. The city waited for a sign that the long winter was ending. The wall's days were numbered. The people's courage was growing. The world was about to witness history. Berlin was ready for change. The stage was set for the wall to fall. The city's heart was about to beat as one again. The story of division was about to become a story of unity. The Berlin Wall appeared overnight in August 1961. Streets blocked, barbed wire strung, soldiers on guard. Berlin awoke to a nightmare. The East German government claimed it was for protection, but it was to stop escapes. Millions had fled the East. The wall was a desperate solution. Over time, it became a complex system. 2 walls, a death strip, guard towers, and tripwire guns. Escape became nearly impossible. The wall was a physical barrier and a psychological weapon, creating fear and hopelessness. Simple trips became impossible. Families and jobs were lost. Trains from the West passed through ghost stations watched by armed guards. The wall cut through neighborhoods, cemeteries, and parks. Buildings were torn down, windows bricked up. It was a daily insult to the human spirit, proof that a government could imprison its own people. Over the years, it became a grim, grey scar, yet it could never erase the longing for freedom. The wall was meant to be permanent, but nothing built on fear lasts forever. The city's spirit endured, waiting for the day the scar would heal. Life beside the wall was a daily struggle of separation and longing. Take Hartmut Richter. He escaped East Germany by swimming a canal, but returned to help others flee. He was caught, imprisoned, but his courage inspired many. Families were split, mothers in the East, sons in the West waving across the death strip. Decades of memories were stolen by the wall. The desire for freedom was powerful. People dug tunnels, hid in cars, even built hot air balloons to escape. Some succeeded. Over 100 died trying. Crosses and flowers marked where hope ended in tragedy. These memorials were silent protests against the division. The wall was a mental barrier too. It taught people to be cautious, to trust no one. The Stasi's shadow loomed. Neighbors could be informants. People learned to live quietly, not to ask for too much. But hope never died. Beneath the surface, a small flame endured. Ordinary people kept the dream of freedom alive. The wall could not crush the human spirit. Every act of defiance, every whispered hope, chipped away at its power. The city waited for the right moment. The longing for unity grew stronger each day. The wall divided lives but not hearts. Berliners endured, hoping for a future without barriers. The moment of change was coming. The world would soon see the power of hope. The wall's shadow was about to lift. Sometimes, history turns on a simple mistake. On November 9th, 1989, East German official Günter Schabowski held a press conference. Under pressure from growing protests, the government planned to ease travel restrictions, slowly. Schabowski, unprepared, was asked when the new rules would start. He glanced at his notes and said, "As far as I know, it takes effect immediately, without delay." The news spread instantly. East Berliners watched in disbelief. Could they really just go? The word immediately changed everything. Crowds began gathering at border crossings, uncertain but hopeful. Guards were confused with no new orders. The crowds grew, dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. People chanted, "Open the gate." The guards tried to call superiors, but no one knew what to do. The pressure mounted. The people were peaceful but determined. The fate of the city hung in the balance. A slip of the tongue had set history in motion. The world watched as Berliners demanded freedom. The wall's power was crumbling, not by force but by hope. The moment was electric. The city held its breath. The wall, once unbreakable, was now vulnerable. Ordinary people stood at the gates of history. The world was about to change forever. The wall's end began with a single mistaken word. The people's courage would finish the job. Berlin was on the brink of unity. The impossible was about to happen. At Bornholmer Strasse, border guards faced a sea of hopeful faces. Commander Harald Jaeger pleaded for orders. None came. The crowd swelled, pressing against the gates. Jaeger saw their desperation and hope. Fearing violence, he made a choice not found in any rulebook. At 11:30 p.m. he gave the order, "Open the barrier." The gate lifted. Silence. Then the first people crossed, hesitant, then jubilant. No one stopped them, no one fired. They were free. Joy erupted. Tears, laughter, strangers embracing. East Berliners poured into the west, greeted by cheers and open arms. The impossible was happening, without violence, just the unstoppable will to be free. Other crossings opened. The city became a festival of unity. Ossis and Wessis met atop the wall, sharing flowers, champagne, and hope. The wall, once a symbol of death, became the world's biggest party. The cold concrete was warmed by human connection. For one night, Berlin was whole. The city's heart beat as one. The wall's fall was not a battle, but a celebration. The world watched in awe. The night belonged to the people. History was made by their courage. The emotions that night were overwhelming. Tears of relief, not sadness. Decades of pain washed away as people crossed the wall for the first time. An elderly woman touched western ground, awed by a world she'd only dreamed of. The city echoed with laughter, singing, and the sound of reunions. "Where are you from?" "I haven't seen my brother in 20 years. These words built bridges across a once impassable divide. West Berliners welcomed newcomers with gifts and open arms. Trabant cars, once symbols of stagnation, became icons of freedom. The streets jammed with joy, a celebration of unity. For a few magical hours there were no Ossis or Wessis, only Berliners. They stood together on the wall, a place once ruled by fear. Now it was a place of belonging. The city was whole again. The feeling was unforgettable, a homecoming long denied. The wall's power was broken by human connection. The night was a triumph of unity over division. Berlin's heart was healed. The world witnessed a city reborn. As celebrations continued, a new sound filled the air. Hammers and chisels striking concrete. The Mauerspechte, or wall woodpeckers, chipped away at the wall, claiming pieces of history. Each fragment was a symbol of victory over oppression. The wall, once menacing, now crumbled under the people's will. Graffiti bloomed, freedom, one people. The wall became a canvas, not a barrier. Soldiers watched as power shifted to the people. Chipping away at the wall was more than demolition. It was liberation. The idea of division was being destroyed. Ordinary citizens took control, not waiting for politicians. The first nights were the most powerful. Regular people breaking down the barrier. Each piece carried away was a promise of a new future. The sound of hammers echoed the end of the Cold War. It was the beginning of a new chapter. The world watched as Berliners reclaimed their city. The wall's fall was messy, loud, and beautiful. It was people power in action. The wall's end was a global symbol of hope. The echoes of freedom rang around the world. The fall of the wall was just the beginning. Reunification was a challenge, two countries, two systems 40 years apart. The process was difficult and costly. The West paid a solidarity tax, the East faced job losses and uncertainty. Old prejudices lingered, and a wall in the head remained. Healing took time, a generation or more. Yet, reunification was a remarkable achievement. Less than a year later, Germany was one country again. Berlin became the capital, and the city began to heal. The death strip turned into parks and bike paths. A line of bricks now marks where the wall once stood. Today, Germany is strong, democratic, and united. The journey wasn't easy, but the wall's fall unleashed a nation's potential. The story of Germany after the wall is one of hope and hard work. It's a lesson for a world with too many walls. Even the deepest wounds can heal. Unity is built one day at a time. The legacy of the wall is a future without barriers. The fall of the Berlin Wall shook the world. It signaled the end of the Cold War, not with a battle, but with a street party. The Iron Curtain was torn apart. The Soviet grip on Eastern Europe loosened. Images from Berlin inspired peaceful revolutions across the region. The dominoes of the Soviet Empire fell. Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary. The hope of 1989 spread, change was possible. Freedom within reach. The end of the Cold War redrew Europe's map, expanded the EU and NATO, and brought new challenges. Old conflicts resurfaced, but the spirit of unity endured. The legacy of Berlin is a reminder: history is made by ordinary people. Protesters with candles, a confused official, a brave guard, and thousands armed with hope changed the world. The fall of the wall proved no division is forever. The human spirit's quest for freedom is unstoppable. The world learned that even the strongest walls can fall. The lesson of Berlin endures. Build bridges, not barriers. The night the wall fell remains a beacon of hope. Ordinary people can change history. The world is always ready for a new beginning. The spirit of Berlin lives on,